Neo Japan are one of my favourite teams in Inazuma 11. Composed of players who couldn't quite make it to Inazuma Japan, their goal was to take them on in a match, and if they won, then they got to replace them and basically become the new Japanese national team, coached by Lena Schiller. And obviously, in typical Inazuma 11 fashion, they didn't do that. They lost, their dreams were crushed, and they never saw the light of day in the Japanese tournament. So today, I've decided to go through Inazuma 11-3 and ask the question of what if Neo Japan won? What if they became the new Japanese national team and took on the rest of the FFI? First of all, are these rules allowed? I feel like it's weird to just allow an entire brand new team, but sure, whatever, in the middle of a tournament? Yeah, why not? Anyway, let's go. So immediately we've got to establish a new protagonist trio. Obviously, in Inazuma 11-3, that's typically Mark, Axel, and Jude. But today, in this brand new season, it's Dave Quagmire as our brand new protagonist. I imagine him to be more like a Jude protagonist than a Mark protagonist. Smart, strategic, the leader. He's the captain, but he's also the playmaker and also a main attacker. He's like a mixture of all three in one. Then you've got your more typical, I imagine, like reckless type striker. That's Zell. Zell would kind of train harder. Like he'd be the whole work harder, not smarter kind of motto that is. It's actually the opposite of that motto. But you know what I mean? Like Zell would be all about training, all about being reckless. He'd be kind of comic relief type vibe. And then Joe King, who obviously would serve that Royal Academy, he'd also be quite knowledgeable, quite wise, and he'd be the goalkeeper. Now for the first match, that's against Fire Dragon, obviously the final. And I think the biggest thing here would be the rivalry created between Dave Quagmire and Fire Dragon's three main players, namely Aphrodite, Torch, and Gazelle. Obviously, Torch and Gazelle, there's the existing relationship with quite a few members of Neo Japan, and I imagine that would obviously create some confrontation. But I think the more interesting dynamic is between Dave Quagmire and Aphrodite, because they kind of serve the exact same roles, that attacking midfielder who is the playmaker, the strategist, and the captain. I know Aphrodite isn't the captain of Fire Dragon, but I think he serves a similar role, the main character energy. And so I would love to see the fight that happens between the two of them, both the mental fight and the actual physical fight. I imagine there'll be a lot of slamming both their feet against the ball at once and creating shockwaves. Dave Quagmire trying to block Aphrodite's shots and vice versa. And I do imagine that obviously Aphrodite, Torch, and Gazelle will be using Chaos Break, and Dave Quagmire would respond with a brand new move of his own, a new shooting move. I mean, also he'd use like God knows and stuff, and Aphrodite would go, whoa! But I think Dave Quagmire would have a brand new shooting move in response to Chaos Break, something like Chaos Spear, which is his own way of combining like the God energy, the Gungnir energy, all that kind of stuff into one cool, awesome shot, showing them that they can combine their powers, but Dave Quagmire is so bloody badass, he can do it himself. The match would be very Dave Quagmire-centric, and would obviously end with a win for Neo Japan. Just a heads up, I'm not going to exactly follow the anime with the wins, losses, and draws. I'm going to kind of be creative with this. So let's take the match against England, the first in the actual FFI group stage. So the immediate thing here for me would be a rivalry between Zell and Edgar. Zell in this season is, again, like we said, the reckless kind of, he's just straight into it. He's not got a lot behind the eyes, but he's a striker. He's all about wanting to score. And so when he comes across Edgar, who is, you know, very, 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 very good at football, with a really strong shooting move in Excalibur, Zell would be kind of pissed off. Zell would want that move. And so Zell in that match would kind of end up creating his own move. Astro Sword is what I'm going with. Like a space sword type theme. Maybe two swords. He picks up two bloody space type swords, slashes the ball a few times before firing it off at full pelt. Something like that. Something where Zell is kind of creating his new ultimate move in response to Edgar. I think Neo Japan, their whole vibe based on that first match was kind of to be not copycats, but kind of like a unique spin on the past. And I think having them kind of continue to be a unique spin on the other FFI teams and their like best moves, their best players, I think it would be an interesting way to go about it. I'd love to see Zell kind of become this this rival for Edgar. Obviously, the problem in this match is that Joe King would really struggle with Edgar. Like, really struggle. Excalibur is a really strong move, and it took Mark having to fire it to, like, just away from him for him to, be able to stop it. So for Joe King, I don't think he would. Maybe at the end of the match, the entire team basically comes together triple defense style and manages to stop the shot. But I think that would be it ending in a draw. I think the match ends in a draw. Zell gets the majority of the goals. Dave Quagmire maybe gets some. But Edgar scores every other time. You know what I mean? Like, every time they score, Edgar responds with an Excalibur, and Joe King can't do anything about it. So this match ends in a draw. The next match is against the Empire, and obviously the big difference with this match is that they don't have Jude. They don't have Jude to go get involved in the whole Orpheus business, and so miss the match. There's no Team D match, nothing like that, meaning that this is just Neo Japan at their best versus Empire at their best. But I think they still lose because Empire's defense is so strong. What can Neo Japan do? They don't have a Grand Fire. I do think they would create their own Grand Fire, but only at the end of the match. And I imagine it kind of being their version of Inazuma Break, because they've seen that Inazuma Break breaks Infinite Wall, and they have their own, they essentially, the Empire have their own Infinite Wall with the Iron Wall. And I imagine they would try and come up with a way to break that, and they end up with something like Neo Break, or Neo Grand Fire, not Neo Grand Fire, but like Neo Death Zone. Something Neo in the name, which is like their big 3-player shot. Maybe it is Wit, Zell, Dave Quagmire. You know what I mean? Like something where it's this big 3-player shot that just breaks through the defense. But I think Hellfire would kind of reign supreme, and it would end like 2-1. The third match would be Unicorn. Eric Eagle's not playing in this match because he just has no real motivation to. The boy's dying. It doesn't make sense for him to play a match that he doesn't really have any reason to play. Obviously, the main reason he pushed himself so hard against Japan originally is because Mark was on the team. This time, he doesn't really have that motivation. I mean, he doesn't really give a shit about Talesman. So, I think this match is just a pretty bog-standard match. I don't think anything particularly interesting happens in this match, and for plot reasons, I'm going to make it end in a win to Neo Japan. Now we're going to get interesting again, because obviously in this timeline, no one from Inazuma Japan was there to help Orpheus against Team D. Meaning Ray Dark just kind of kills off all of Orpheus with whatever the hell, fences or whatever he did. And that means that Team D won that match. Team D reigned supreme, and so Team D get to become the new Italian team and continue through the FFI, meaning that the match is not Inazuma Japan versus Orpheus, but Neo Japan versus Team D. And I do think this is actually a much, much easier match. I mean, Team D's best player is Demono Strada, whose best move is an Emperor Penguin move. And I mean, who else is going to know how to best stop an Emperor Penguin move than Joe King, who I imagine would have a big plot line in this match, because Ray Dark would be there. And so Joe King, obviously having dealt with Ray Dark quite a lot through his Royal Academy days and Royal Academy Redux days, I imagine that he would have a whole plot line about overcoming his own personal Ray Dark demons, eventually resulting in him taking control of the Beast Fang move, and it becoming Ultra Beast Fang, or something like that. Some super-powered Beast Fang, who knows, Demon Fang, I don't know, something like really powerful, a big powerful goalkeeping move, which just stops Emperor Penguin X and wins Neo Japan the match. So Neo Japan end the group stage, the exact same as Inazuma Japan actually. 2 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Meaning they move to the semi-finals, and the semi-final match versus the Kingdom. Now obviously again, this is a different timeline. There's no Inazuma Japan interfering with bloody Kingdom in this, because I mean Neo Japan are just kind of off doing their own thing. They're not these big protagonist energy. Macrobingo would probably still come up to them to be like, hey, do you mind losing for me or something? But I think Neo Japan, rather than wanting to investigate that, just take that as a challenge and just try harder. But I think Macrobingo still kind of walks all over them. I think he eventually injures himself in the match, but at the point where it's too late, he's done enough, and Neo Japan will lose. That's my big twist. Neo Japan just straight up lose, and it's a tragic ending. They can't do enough to win. Garshield wins the day, and then gets pummeled by Little Gigant in the next round because Dave Evans is built different. But yeah, I just don't think Neo Japan can win this one. I just don't think Neo Japan are up to the same standards as Inazuma Japan to win the tournament. They don't have the same character, they don't have the same moves, they don't have the same strength. They've got their own personal strengths and flaws, which I think could get them to the semi-final. And I like the idea of them, how we've created for them that path, but I think they would eventually lose because they're not the protagonists we wish they were. Little Gigant, I guess, are more the protagonists we wish they were. But hopefully you enjoyed this What If video. I'm having a lot of fun making these, so if you enjoy them, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what other What Ifs you want to see in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.